Hello there, very good evening and welcome to your Primetime News Bulletin. I'm Shane Silva.
And I'm Florin Rajendran.
Tragedy struck the residents of Koslanda early this morning, and Mahina Bongzo is at the newsroom waiting to give you the very latest on this story.
But before going into those stories in detail, here's a look at your headlines.
$300 unaccounted for following Koslanda landslide tragedy. 10 bodies pulled out of the rubble. President Rajapaksa instructs for immediate relief efforts. Bad weather hampers relief efforts. 10 schools in Haldamulla closed until Monday.
Well, here's a story that we have been covering extensively on Newsfirst and continue to cover as the hours pass by, hours which are treacherous for the family members who have lost their loved ones or who have no news of their loved ones from a landslide that occurred in Koslanda. The children who were sent off to school before this landslide occurred came back to find their houses devastated, came back to find their family members lost and no news of. They are currently being sheltered at the C. Ganesha Tamil College and are in a state of shock and disbelief because most of their family members have been buried by this landslide that occurred in Koslanda this morning. Now, talking you through about the exact location where the landslide occurred. The landslide occurred this morning in Miriabadda in Koslanda, that's in the Haldamulla Administrative Division. Thus far, 6 bodies have been recovered from the debris. However, according to the Assistant Director of the Badulla District Disaster Management Centre, EML Udayakumara, close to 300 persons are believed to be missing. Now, Newsfirst, as I said, was covering this story extensively. Our reporters reacted immediately once the information came to light about this landslide, and not only reporting news from Colombo here at the Newsfirst Centre, but we also deployed Newsfirst correspondents who took to the air to take a first-hand look, to take a closer look, to access locations which are not easily accessible via road, to bring you footage of the devastation caused. Now, the footage you are going to witness right now clearly shows you the magnitude of this landslide and the damage caused.
After about 1 hour flying time, we were able to reach Koslanda area where this landslide was occurred. From the sky, we could clearly see the damaged land, the extent of the damage. However, we managed to capture some of the visuals of the scene, but this task was really uneasy. I must say that the weather condition was not that conducive for this air operation, but we were able to capture some of the visuals. Mahinda Gamuge, S. Krishantaraj and me, Sangit Kalubovila for Newsfirst.
That was Newsfirst Sangeet Kalubowila filing a Sky report for us on the landslide that occurred in Koslanda in Badula. Now, Sangeet, once he returned to the newsroom, spoke to us about the difficulty he had to face and the pilots had to face when going onto the air and when bringing you this footage. It was a treacherous journey because, mind you, the weather conditions were not favorable. They're not favorable for relief efforts. So you can just imagine the weather conditions up there, and flying an aircraft is not an easy task in such treacherous weather conditions. So Sangeet Kalubowila took to the air at around 3 or 4 this evening to bring you those aerial shots of the devastation caused by this landslide in Badula. Now, as I said, tragedy struck this morning just as families were getting into their daily stride, getting into their daily routine after sending their children safe to school.
What was once a hive of activity is now a tomb. The landslide that wrought grief on the estate community occurred at around 7:15 this morning. Minutes after the landslide occurred, TM Raja, News First, you reporter from Bandarwala, fed us with this footage. Over 70 homes were buried by the falling earth and rocks. Thus far, no survivors have been pulled out of the rubble. For the survivors, all that they are left with now are the memories of their loved ones and anguish.
தாத்தா எங்கள் தம்பி என்னோட தாத்தா மே ரோட்டில் வந்துட்டார். நான் கீ ரோட்டில் ஒடியான்ட்டோம். ஒடியாந்தனைக்கு என்ன கல்லு நடி படித்து அவ்வளோ வழி இல்லை. அப்போ திருப்பி மண் படித்து நான் டக்குன்னு எந்திரிச்சு ஒடியான்ட்டேன். ஒடியாந்து பக்கத்தில் வந்து தம்பியை காணா. அவ்வளோதான்.
People who were pulled out of the rubble were brought to the Koslanda hospital.
All preparations have been made at the hospital to face any situation that may arise in the future. The staff are on standby 24 hours of the day in order to face any emergency.
Although most children living in these homes were saved from the landslide since they were in school, most of their families fell victim to this tragedy. The children left their houses this morning with the hope of returning to their familiar embrace of their homes. Instead, what awaited them was shock and disbelief. The Director of Education in the Central Province, RMP Ratnayaka, said 10 schools in the Purnagala and Nikati areas in the Haldamulla Education Division have been closed until Monday following the landslide. Military spokesperson Brigadier Wanwanagusuriya said that 500 troops were deployed to aid in the rescue operation. As twilight settled, the hope of finding survivors diminished. For those whom fate favored, the Koslanda tragedy will go down as one of the worst natural calamities Sri Lanka has faced in recent years.
Uncomprehendable sadness in the hearts and minds of those who survived this landslide but are yet to hear news about their loved ones who are presumed to be buried in this landslide that is clearly has caused much devastation from the visuals you just witnessed there. Now, what about the rescue operations? Now, rescue operations commenced as soon as information about this landslide came to light, with the armed forces coming in, the Navy, the Army, the Air Force bringing in all their efforts and manpower to do whatever they can to save the lives that were clearly devastated by this landslide. However, rescue operations had to be halted earlier in the day due to the unfavorable weather conditions. It's still heavy showers are still being witnessed in these areas, and landslide warnings have been issued in these areas. We'll be talking to you about the landslide warnings later on in the bulletin. But once this tragedy came to light, the Minister of Disaster Management, that's Mahinda Amravira, visited the Badulla area to take a look at the devastation caused. Well, Minister Mahinda Amravira did speak to Newsfirst. That's on our 7 o'clock primetime bulletin on our sister channel, Sirsa TV. He spoke to us via phone in conversation with Newsfirst Gayan Sampath Somachandra. He said that the relief efforts will commence as soon as possible tomorrow. Let's take a listen to what Minister Mahinda Amravira had to say.
Can you tell us what the current situation in the area is?
I left the area a short while ago. It was difficult to continue with the rescue operation because of the inclement weather, but we are hoping to resume the rescue operation tomorrow morning. The latest information we have indicates that 330 people were living in this area. 75 children were saved because they were in school. Adults who were at work also escaped the tragedy. We believe that about 150 people were buried by the landslide.
Have you put in place a mechanism to obtain definite information regarding the victims? The biggest problem we are facing is that the location which held all the information regarding people in this community is also buried. The storage room has been buried completely. That is why no one is able to give out any definite information. Even I made various attempts. People are being sheltered at 2 camps, and although they are within sight of each other, it takes about 3 hours to travel between them because the landslide has affected the road as well, and there is no mode of transport between the 2 camps. The geography of the area has been changed completely. There are several such practical issues, but we have taken steps to provide all information to the Disaster Management Center. We're looking at the images we are getting from the area, we realize the extent of this natural disaster. Minister, what are the hardships that are facing the relief operation?
ඇති දුෂ්කරතාවයන් පිළිබඳව එතුමනි හඳුනා ගැනීමක් කරලා තියෙනවද මොනවද තියෙන දුෂ්කරතා සහන කටයුතු වලට විපතටපත්වන් සොයාගෙන යද්දී
The primary difficulty is that the NBRO says there is a risk of another landslide here as we continue to dig up the earth in search of the victims. The Director General of the NBRO too accompanied me to the location, and they are saying that we must understand this risk as we proceed with the rescue operation because there could be a risk to the lives of the rescuers. All steps have been taken to provide relief to the survivors who are now being sheltered in the camps.
Minister, you are hoping to resume the rescue operation tomorrow. Will it be broadened in any way?
We are hoping to resume the search tomorrow, and the assistance of the army and civilians too has been secured for this. What we must understand is that this has all been buried by a 30-foot high embankment. It is difficult to search through the rubble. I went there personally and observed this fact. The next problem we are facing is to do with the plight of the children. They are mostly school children, and their parents are either dead or are buried in the rubble. Providing care for them is difficult, but we have made all provisions. We gave the district secretary 500,000 rupees in cash today and a cheque for 2 million rupees, and he has been instructed to take all necessary steps.
If you are just joining Primetime News, where we are bringing you details of the landslide that occurred this morning in the Koslanda area, that's in Haldamulla, Badulla. Nearly 6 people, actually 6 bodies were recovered from the debris, while almost 300 people are reported missing. Relief efforts have come to a standstill because landslide warnings had been issued to this area. So relief efforts are slated to begin tomorrow as soon as possible. Now, Newsfirst Shehan Ranatunga is at the scene of the landslide. Let's cross over to Shehan. Shehan, could you talk us through the ground situation, the current ground situation in Koslanda?
Yes, Mahina, we are currently at the location where this landslide took place in Koslanda. It's horrific scenes all around me. All I can see is rubble, is just mud and soil that has just covered homes. This was once a bustling community. At 7 a.m. this morning, people were getting ready to go about their usual business. And then at 7:30, disaster struck, and now their lives are devastated. We have been told that the very ground that we're standing on could possibly have many hundreds of people still trapped.
Shehan, before we let you go, could you talk us through the weather situation in Khoslanda at the moment? Now, we know that landslide warnings have been issued to this area in particular, but talk us through whether there is heavy showers at the moment and how the weather is right now.
As for the weather condition, it has been raining continuously throughout. Even at the moment, at this very moment, it is raining, and this has made the rescue efforts very difficult. Has hampered rescue efforts. The conditions are very slippery, muddy, so it makes it difficult for vehicles to travel back and forth. It makes it difficult for the army and security services to do the work that they need to do. So it's clearly this is the reason behind why rescue efforts have ended.
Thank you, Shehan. That's Shehan Ranatunga from Newsfirst reporting from Khoslanda in Badulla. Now, President Mahinda Rajapaksa has expressed his condolences to the victims of the tragedy caused by the landslide in Miriabada in Khoslanda, Haldamulla. A statement issued by the Presidential Media Unit reads that upon being informed of the tragedy, the President had immediately issued instructions to the relevant authorities to expedite the rescue and relief operations. The Presidential Media Unit says that the President had ordered Minister Armugam Thondaman to travel to the area by air and look into the plight of the people affected by the tragedy. The President had also instructed the Minister of Disaster Management, Mahinda Amravira, Chief Minister of the Uva Province, Sashendra Rajapaksa, and the Secretary to the Ministry of Defence and Urban Development, Gotabe Rajapaksa, to take all possible steps to provide relief to the affected people. Speaking at a media briefing held today, former Minister of Disaster Management, Mahinda Samarisinghe, expressed his views on the landslide.
We know that in 2011, the NBRO issued a statement to the owners of this estate that this area is prone to landslides. It is unsuitable for estate workers to live there and that these people to be relocated. This, however, was not done. Nevertheless, action will have to be taken by the Minister of Plantation Industries on the NBRO with regard to why the directions were not implemented.
Heavy showers, earth slips and landslides have also affected many other parts of the island over the past few days. Here's a look at the situation that was in these areas yesterday and today.
Train services along the upcountry railway line, which were disrupted when the tracks were blocked between Ella and Demodara following a cut failure, have now been restored. Chief Railway Controller D.V. Gunapala said that train services along the upcountry line are operating up to Badulla only. 3 main roads were closed off today following cut failures reported from 22 locations in Gampola. The Gampola Hemmate Gama Road via Ambulavawa, the Gampola Kadugannava Road via Watadenia and the Gampola Gala Road were closed. The Gampola Divisional Secretary noted that 5 families in the Singhapitiya area had been relocated following a landslide. An earth embankment buried a house in Udagama Kehel Pannala in Hemmate Gama. Our reporter says about half of the house was damaged in the incident. A landslide also occurred near the 13th mile post on the Pasara Namunukula main road. Our reporter says the road has been blocked since about 11 o'clock last night after rocks and earth fell from the peak of the mountain. A house was destroyed following a landslide in Nugagahena in Pol Atamodara Gramanildari division in Valigama Matara. Our reporter says about 8 houses on the mountain and several other homes at the foot of the mountain are under threat. Meanwhile, about 30 homes in Randenia and Vallavaya in the Vallavaya Administrative Division were inundated by flood waters. Our reporter says that the floods were caused by the Kirindi Oya breaking its banks yesterday. The Monoragala District Disaster Management Centre says about 40 homes were damaged by floods in Tanamalvilla, Nikavawa and Bodhagama. Meanwhile, the Vallavaya Road, which was closed yesterday owing to a landslide, has been reopened. However, the police have requested motorists to exercise caution when using the road in the event of rain. People who were trapped following the landslide were rescued last night with the assistance of the Sri Lanka Army. Meanwhile, steps were taken to break off parts of the bund of the Kumichan Kulama reservoir in Anuradhapura to release excess water and prevent the bund from breaking apart altogether. Our reporter says that sandbags have been used to stop the leak in the bund. The threat aggravated after the leak that was reported at the Kumichan Kulama river expanded.
What you just witnessed were footage of landslides and earth slips that had occurred over the past few days in several parts of the island. Now, Gamini Jayatissa, who is the senior geologist of the Landslide and Disaster Management Unit of the National Building Research Organization, says that landslide warnings that have been issued to certain districts in the country due to heavy showers still remains in effect. Particularly, landslide warnings have been issued for the Kegol, Ratnapura, Matale, Kandy, Badulla and Norelia districts. Meanwhile, the DMC or the Disaster Management Center also issued landslide warnings for roads in Kegol, that is in Mavanala, Aranayaka, Deraniyagala, Yatiyantota, Dehiyovita and Bulatkopitiya district secretariat divisions. Warnings were also issued for the Ratnapura, Balangoda and Imbulpe district secretariat divisions and Egoda, Waleboda, Megoda and Ravana areas as well. Moreover, the DMC issued warnings in the Ratnapura, Ahalyagoda, Kalawana and Godakavela district secretariat divisions, especially Udathalavitiya, Hapugoda and Bibilegama. Motorists and people travelling to these areas have been advised to refrain from travel to these areas because of these landslide warnings, and this should be taken seriously, taking into consideration the disaster which occurred earlier this morning. Recapping what we have been covering here at News First, a landslide, a devastating landslide occurred this morning in the Koslanda area in Haldamulla in Badulla, killing 6 persons while 300 persons remain missing. Now, relief efforts have been stalled for the moment because of heavy showers, also because of the landslides, warnings that have been issued to these areas. But these relief operations are due to commence tomorrow as soon as possible. You can follow the stories that we are covering here on Newsfirst, particularly on the Koslanda tragedy, regarding the landslide warnings, about the latest development on this story on our Twitter account, on our Facebook and on Newsfirst.lk, and also here at the Newsfirst team in Colombo. So we'll see you again with more details on this story, but for the moment we're going for a short commercial break, and when we come back, it's a look at more local news.
Welcome back to the news. United National Party parliamentarian Buddhika Pathirana raised questions in Parliament today regarding the garbage and waste management centre operated in Gohagoda area in Kandy and the institutions maintaining the centre.
This institution has been registered under the Companies Act. The names and addresses of the Board of Directors are as follows: Professor Benedict Basanayaka, C57, University House, Augusta Hill, Bovalavatta Road, Kandy.
I have a letter formulated by the chairman of the Central Environmental Authority. In this letter, it is clearly mentioned that the water from this waste disposal site is being released to the Mahabali River. It also states that the biomedical oxygen demand, or BOD, the chemical oxygen demand, or COD, the phosphate and nitrate levels in the waste that flows to the river are beyond the levels permitted by the Central Environmental Authority, thus creating environmental pollution.
The Water Resources Board are attentive to this situation. However, a situation of environmental pollution has not been confirmed so far.
Professor Ben Basnayaka is using the address of his official residence for a company letter. Secondly, he has pointed out in his webpage on the Peradeniya University website that this project is being initiated by the Peradeniya University. Can the ministry intervene in this gamble or not?
Honourable Deputy Speaker, there is no gamble here. The investors have still been unable to earn a revenue through this. Investors can earn a revenue only through generating electricity. It has been stated that this would take a few months.
I can state confidently that electricity is not being generated and cannot be generated. This fool has sold the waste disposal site and is earning an income.
You have no right to call a professor of a university a fool. That statement should be withdrawn.
The
Central Environmental Authority, which comes under the purview of the Ministry of Environment, is not satisfied about the current project. However, according to my knowledge, no company can earn a profit by generating energy in this manner. This is a dream. It can never happen. The Central Environmental Authority will formulate an alternative mechanism and will extend our fullest support towards it.
ඒ නිසා අපි මධ්‍යම පරිසර අධිකාරිය මැදිහත් වෙලා ඒට විකල්ප වැඩපිළිවෙලක් දැන් සකස් කරලා දීලා ඒක ක්‍රියාත්මක සඳහා අපේ සහයෝගය අපි ලබා දෙනවා.
The Lanka Sama Samaj Party convened a media briefing today to clarify the situation that has arisen with regard to the LSSP's stance on abolishing the executive presidency and its future course of action. The media briefing was held at the auditorium of the National Library and Archive Services Board in Colombo.
The party Central Committee met on the 26th. At the Central Committee meeting, Comrade Tissa Vitarna instantly made the proposal that we must pledge support to Mahinda Rajapaksa to be elected as executive presidency once again. While making clarifications regarding this, Tissa Vitarna also made another warning. He said that another danger is the possibility that sections of the army and extremist Sinhala Buddhist forces under leadership could move towards a totalitarianism or dictatorship in the future. Comrade Tissa Vitarna made it exceedingly clear as to the extreme that the executive presidency could go to. He said that there is a possibility that this could go to the extreme of militarism and fundamentalism. He said that we must exert pressure on the executive presidency to be abolished rather than hold another presidential election. Pressure must be exerted on President Mahinda Rajapaksa for this purpose. We must engage with him continuously. Our two members who are in Parliament, Tissa Vitarna and Padmasiri, were both enthusiastic that we should pledge support to President Rajapaksa at the election. They wanted to make a sudden decision. They are people who have violated party discipline in the past too. Our party's Politburo decided on 2 occasions that the party would not vote for the 18th Amendment to the Constitution. They violated that decision and voted for it. However, considering their seniority, the party was very lenient with them. We say that if a common candidate who promises to abolish the executive presidency within 6 months of taking office comes forward for the election under a common symbol, then we must pledge support to that candidate. All of these people and even the party will support the program to put forward Sobita Thero as the candidate.
The LSSP decided recently to pledge support to President Mahinda Rajapaksa at the presidential election. Issuing a statement, the LSSP Deputy Secretary said the decision was taken on the basis of several important national and international political proposals. Newsfirst made inquiries from party leader, Senior Minister Professor Tissa Vitarna regarding the divisions in the party.
At the concluded party convention, a clear decision was reached to join with the progressive parties, including the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, and accept ministerial positions within the UPFA government. Accordingly, we have worked together as stakeholders in the government so far. So if the government that we are members of is putting forward Mahinda Rajapaksa as the candidate, it is our duty to support him. The decision that we have taken is not in violation of the decision that was taken at the convention in any way. We will continue with this policy.
The following views were shared by the leader of the Democratic People's Front, Mano Ganeshan, regarding the common candidate ahead of the upcoming presidential election.
The problem we as opposition are facing is who is going to contest against President Mahinda Rajapaksa. It is not about the person, but whether is it a common candidate. Is it a candidate from the UNP? That is the doubt we have. To allay this doubt, I am making the request from the opposition leader. Will it be a common platform or will it be a green platform? Because we are carrying out a large-scale program at this very moment. We are in the process of a major program under the patronage of Venerable Sobita Thero.
විශාල ව්‍යාපාරයක් කරගෙන යනවා.
Kamalesh Sharma, the Secretary General of the Commonwealth, has encouraged Sri Lanka to accelerate efforts towards sustainable reconciliation. Sharma made the statement at a media briefing convened in Colombo today prior to concluding an official visit to the country.
In his departure statement, the Commonwealth Secretary General said that full disclosure of details of missing persons is necessary for the durability of reconciliation in Sri Lanka.
I also encourage the government of Sri Lanka to accelerate its efforts towards sustainable reconciliation and consolidation of its successful and hard-won peace through continued implementation of the recommendations of Sri Lanka's Lessons Learned and Reconciliation Commission. There cannot be durable reconciliation without knowledge of the whereabouts of missing persons and accounting for their disappearance or loss. Healing and forgiveness are possible only with full knowledge.
His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit, the Archbishop of Colombo, presiding at a meeting recently at the Archbishop's house, confirmed the visit of Pope Francis to Sri Lanka on the 13th and 14th of January 2015. His Eminence Cardinal Malcolm Ranjit requested the Reverend Fathers to inform the faithful in the parishes and institutions that the Pope will visit Sri Lanka as scheduled and encourage them to pray for his visit. His Eminence also said that the Bishops' Conference will stick to the dates as announced in the Vatican itinerary, and the bishops are doing their utmost to prepare everything for the Pope's visit. His Eminence said during the last week two bishops were discussing with the relevant government authorities about the security arrangements. Cardinal Ranjit also said that a delegation from the Vatican is due in Sri Lanka to work out the program for the Pope's visit.
Sri Lanka has slipped from 85th to 99th position in the Doing Business rankings compiled by the World Bank Group. The latest rankings were published in the World Bank Group's Doing Business 2015 report.
The Doing Business report measures regulations affecting 11 areas of the life of a business in 189 countries. 10 of these areas are included in this year's ranking on the ease of doing business, starting a business, dealing with construction permits, getting electricity, registering property, getting credit, protecting minority investors, paying taxes, trading across borders, enforcing contracts, and resolving insolvency. Doing Business also measures labour market regulation, which is not included in this year's ranking. Singapore has claimed top spot in the Doing Business rankings, while New Zealand and Hong Kong have been ranked second and third respectively.
A youth has been arrested in connection with the murder of a 74-year-old woman in the Pilapitia area in Kiribati Kumbura. Police media spokesperson SSP Ajit Rohana said that the suspect, who was a frequent visitor to the victim's house, had carried out the murder the night before last.
According to police, the suspect, a 17-year-old youth, had strangled the 74-year-old woman with a piece of cloth when an argument between the pair over an incident of theft had turned violent. The police added that the youth was arrested last night and that investigations into the murder are underway.
Newsfirst.lk reporter Fazlan from Birgama filed this report today.
At around 1:30 this afternoon, there was a motor accident in the Birgama town. The accident involved two motorcycles. One motorcyclist who was injured was admitted to the Gampaha base hospital.
ගම්පහ මූලික රෝහල වෙත එතුළත් කර තිබෙනවා. මම Newsfirst reporter Fazlan Birgama සිට.
The Asia Forum of Parliamentarians on Population and Development, or AFPPD, was held in Cambodia yesterday. The focus of this forum was to address violence against women and girls and violence prevention.
General Secretary of the Citizens Front, MP J. Ranga, who chaired the forum, discussed on the topic of successful intervention at national level on violence prevention and responses.
There are certain things we should understand. The woman, WOMEN, include men. We can interpret it. The woman is bigger than men because that is 5 letters. But otherwise we can say the woman and men you can't divide. the name itself, woman, include the man.
Following the session, a standing committee meeting on the AFPPD was convened, where MP J. Sri Ranga put forward a motion to the Executive Committee and to the Secretary General of AFPPD on the agenda for the 2015 AFPPD General Assembly. The motion was that within the 2 member national delegations to the AFPPD General Assembly, at least one delegate be a female parliamentarian. The motion was unanimously voted in favour by all 22 member states. Following the conclusion of the session, MP J. Sri Ranga was presented a token of appreciation by the Secretary General of the Asian Forum of Parliamentarians and Population Development, Jetan Siratranonta.
In your sports news tonight, a cricket turf was provided for the first time to the people of the North today. This was at the St. Patrick's College grounds in Jaffna.
The cricket turf was inaugurated with a match between the 1996 World Cup champions team and an under-23 team from the Northeast. The 96 champions, led by Sana Jayasuriya, won the match by 5 runs. Our main objective in visiting Jaffna was to promote and support cricket among the children here. Therefore, providing a cricket turf is a good initiative from SLC. This area did not have a cricket turf before. This was the first time they have been provided with a cricket turf. This has given an opportunity to those who are talented to be selected to the Sri Lanka cricket team. Meanwhile, the Muril Cup cricket competition got underway today. 24 teams took part in these games that were held in 5 grounds in Kilinochchi, Mullaitivu and Jaffna.
And with that, we wrap up this edition of your Primetime News. I'm Shayan Silva.
And I'm Florian Rajendran. Good night and stay safe.